Mi nombre es Misbell y soy de Venezuela.
Hola, mi nombre es Eduardo.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Alisha.
Hace 10 años, por orden de Dios, nos vinimos a Estados Unidos.
Even just from that first service, we looked at each other and we're like, this feels like home.
Dios nos habló claramente acerca de venirnos a Tennessee a través de un sueño.
My name is Ron Jackson. I got saved in this church. I grew up in Texas, and my older brother had passed away when I was in mid-teens, and it changed me, and I decided to live a different kind of life. I was living in the nightclubs and doing things, all kinds of degradation and the drugs and the alcohol to overcome all the things that the world told me I was. And I just kept taking it to another level and to another level. In the middle of selling drugs, doing drugs, living in places and people and things that were just dark. Spiraled to a point where I got arrested, not once, but twice in 6 weeks. And ended up having to go away for a little while. I had a boss, her name was Damie. She could have fired me 1,000 times. She got promoted and moved to Nashville, and she had decided to take it upon herself to get me here. She decided I had to get out of Dallas. Well, I'll just run away from it. I'll come to Nashville, and this is how I got here. Still the lifestyle issues. Alcohol, drugs. Now, there were different drugs this time. It still falls back to those same types of things. We had a meeting at work on a Sunday, and Michelle had leaned over to me, and she goes, "You want to get out of this meeting?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm going to take those Thanksgiving Day bags or basket, whatever she called it, and take it up to the church." And we got to the church and dropped off the stuff, and then she looked at me and she goes, "Well, I'm going to service." And I said, "Well, I rode with you. I guess I'm going to service." I came in, and it is usually condemnation is what I always heard. Well, Paul was speaking that day, and I didn't hear any of that. I heard there was a different way to live, and that all that I had done, all that I thought I was, all that I thought the world said I was, could all be washed away. And I've sat in that same chair trying to remember going down there on the altar call. And I knew that I had taken a step into something else, and I accepted Christ that day. Still, time would go by and I'd be back into my ways again. I knew that I couldn't keep living the way I was living, but why isn't it working? I'm saying the things, I'm doing the things. Why am I not different? So I thought, well, I'll get baptized. And it just spiraled out again, and I'm back at the dope house again. And I had enough. And I told God, I said, whatever comes to that door, I'm doing all of it one shot, and that's it, and you can sort it out. All of a sudden, the door shut, and I heard, "Go, run. This is not you." Bolted out that door. I'm just like, "God, please don't let me turn around. Please don't let me turn around." Got the door, slammed that door shut, and I hit my knees, and I told God, I said, "Thank you. I'm never going back." So after that, I'm different, and I can look back on it and realize that I had to surrender all the reservations of my thought and my heart, because I didn't know how to run through the list of what God says I am, because I was afraid that I was going to hear that God doesn't love me. And I felt that for so long, but in that moment, that undeniable moment, all those fears were gone. And I was hearing what God told me, that I am saved, that I have a Father who loves me, I'm redeemed, and I am chosen. I did the DNA at church. I got on the outreach team, and Liz Keck, she's amazing. She had showed me People Loving Nashville. And so I serve on that outreach and go on Monday nights. I'm going to be speaking at an AA group here pretty soon. I'm going down for my orientation for the men's prison release mentorship program. It's called VMI. It's going to be interesting to be on that side of it there, to be able to bring the testimony to fruit for someone else. I used to be hesitant to speak to someone or pray for someone, and I'm not that anymore.
Una de las cosas que Dios nos habló de cómo venir a Belonging es que tuve un sueño, y en ese sueño veía un árbol muy grande, un árbol milenial, Y este árbol tenía solamente una hoja verde, una hoja gigante y verde. Y yo le dije, Señor, ¿qué es esto que estoy viendo? Y el Señor me dijo, corre a una iglesia que esté llena del Espíritu Santo. Porque en América representa este árbol. Y hay muchas iglesias, pero hay pocas que están llenas de mi espíritu. Una de mis sobrinas recibió un milagro de sanidad de un cáncer. Los médicos dijeron que tenía solo 3 meses de vida. Y mi sobrina, después de orar y después de ayunar y después de encontrarnos con Dios, recibió completa sanidad. Después de ese proceso fui a mi doctor por mi chequeo anual, y cuando fui con mi doctor, ella sintió que yo tenía algo acá en mi cuello. Ella me tocó y me dijo, oh, ¿qué tienes acá? Te siento algo raro. Y me dijo, te voy a enviar para que te revisen, te hagan un scan y puedan ver qué pasa allí. Lo que pasó luego de ese scan es que la chica me dice, mira, yo veo que hay algo muy mal aquí, necesitas hacerte una biopsia para confirmar qué es lo que está pasando. Diciembre 27 recibí la llamada de mi doctor diciéndome, Misbell, tú tienes cáncer. Y tu cáncer ha hecho metástasis en tus ganglios linfáticos. Sin embargo, así nos fuimos a la casa ya con esta mala noticia, este mal diagnóstico, a clamar y orar al Señor, a pedirle al Señor fortaleza. El doctor nos dijo, tienes que operarte de emergencia. No puedes esperar nada, porque esto está invadiendo todos tus ganglios, así que tiene que ser muy rápido.
Bueno, que cuando recibimos esa noticia, compartimos con algunos hermanos, estábamos en la iglesia y Misbell se acercó a la pastora Ale, y la pastora Ale oró por ella, puso sus manos sobre su cuello y dijo que estaba sana en el nombre de Jesús. Es un poco difícil escuchar esa palabra sana cuando hay una realidad física real, pero esa es la fe. La fe es la certeza de lo que se cree y la convicción de lo que no se ve. Nosotros preferimos agarrarnos de allí realmente. Y fue un proceso difícil, se añadieron familias como que nos ayudaron, estuvieron con nosotros de la iglesia. La familia Goki estuvo con nosotros en todo tiempo, la familia Recalde también estuvo con nosotros, la familia Gómez, los Rasmussen, muchas familias que se añadieron, y de verdaderamente pudimos ver los brazos de Jesús a través del cuerpo de Cristo. Y recuerdo que yo, una vez que la doctora nos dice, antes de la operación necesitamos hacer un rescan para confirmar todo. Y antes de la operación le hicieron un rescan y detectaron que se había regado la parte de metástasis.
Había hecho metástasis.
Entonces yo empecé a caminar por las paredes del hospital y empecé a poner las manos por todas las paredes del hospital. Empecé a orar en fe, todas las cosas que uno hace por fe. Me acuerdo que estábamos en la sala y la doctora llegó y nos dice, realmente yo no sé lo que pasó, pero cuando abrimos a Misbell, lo que veíamos en todos estos exámenes que teníamos, que había sido metástasis, todo se apuntó en un solo punto, todo se encogió en un solo punto. Se encogió tan perfecto que pudimos cortar el tumor y ella tiene cáncer free. Yo le pregunto a la doctora, ¿y todos los exámenes que teníamos, todas las pruebas que teníamos, cómo hacíamos con eso? La doctora lo que dijo fue, yo no sé lo que pasó, pero ocurrió. Ella está sana. Porque médicamente es difícil para el médico, ¿no? Decir que hubo un milagro, pero nosotros lo testificamos y lo confirmamos que realmente Dios obró en la vida de mi bebé.
Y además de eso tuvimos un tiempo ahí muy precioso donde la presencia de Dios cubrió el lugar. Recuerdo que en los pasillos estaban pasando todavía personas, pero quedó solo. Y pude sentir como la presencia del Espíritu Santo, su abrazo sobre nosotros estaba allí para confirmarnos que ese era el capítulo final, donde Dios me estaba diciendo, Misbell, es todo. Yo he hecho la sanidad completa en tu vida y a partir de ahora vas a vivir el milagro de la vida. Por sus llagas yo fui curada. Así que doy testimonio hoy. Yo fui sanada del cáncer de tiroides con metástasis en mis ganglios linfáticos. Y hoy puedo decir que Jesús es mi sanador, que no moriré, sino que viviré para contar todas sus maravillas.
When I look back, I think about how quickly the Lord took us to a place where we got connected through co-groups, men's weekend, and then the invite to come on staff to help launch and lead college back in 2020 during COVID.
After our time on staff, Jamie jumped into this new contract and just really back into building the business. At first it was exciting, but very quickly that started to shift.
I took on more than I could handle, and it started to break me down. The expectations, the commitments, the involvement, it got to the point where it took me away from home.
Our kids had left home, so we were empty nesters, and I think I had this dream that we would be out doing things together, and it was like now we're separating. And so every time that it would come with this angst from me, and I would lash out at him like, why do you have to go? Are you sure you have to go? And so instead of fighting for each other, we're fighting with each other. In my heart and my mind, I was like, this is just like every other time. We're hitting a tough season of things we need to work through.
For a year, we had drifted so far. We were two roommates living under the same roof. We've had passionate disagreements. We've fought in our marriage at times, like we've had moments, but there was this one night where I actually remember losing control. This sort of like raised, elevated, like, I can't do this anymore. And in the back of my mind, when I said that out loud, I was like, oh no, I actually mean it this time. Like, I'm done.
I didn't really know how broken and how difficult it had become for Jamie. That day as we stood in the kitchen and he was saying all these words to me, I kind of sat there in shock, and I literally heard the Holy Spirit almost audibly say to me, these words will not take root. I knew in that moment, this is not a battle between Jamie and I, but it's actually a spiritual battle.
We're beginning to separate. There's less interaction. I stopped sharing my location with her. I pushed all of the boundaries for my own safety further and further and further out. I let somebody else in.
Honestly, it was like losing your spouse for me. In my deepest, darkest pain, I found the Lord in a way that I didn't even know was possible.
What's wild is how Lish runs to the Lord in a time of darkness. I run away in a time of darkness. And his faithfulness and his pursuit and his love extended to the extremes of both of those things.
I had to surrender my marriage to the Lord because I didn't want that to become more important than my surrender to him. And the Lord really then stirred my heart to start praying for compassion for his son.
I'd asked a question on text, am I worth fighting for? And that began a conversation. It was like 2.5 hours straight. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I am going to tell her what I've done. And there was this moment of silence. And she was like, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I remember pulling up and she walked out. She didn't even let me get the car in park. And she pulled the door open, seatbelt and all, and just like full on bear hugged me. And I lost it. Because everything in me was expecting punishment or retribution or something, not that.
Because I had released it all to the Lord and said, it is not my right to make you pay for what you did. Even though it was painful, it made that part easy. And to be able to just say, I am not going anywhere.
I was excited to go to church with Lish, but all of a sudden when we arrived at the factory, I started to this anxiety. I was like, oh, what am I walking into? And I saw Alex and I was like, uh-oh, I'm not ready for this. And she walked up and she threw her arms around me and she was like, I love you. I am so glad that you're here. That did not go the way I thought that it would, but it was such a huge moment because all of a sudden I was like, it is good for me to be here. We're gonna rebuild here, to be in church, to engage with friendships, to be willing to be vulnerable, and to just be so honest about what it looks like to be broken and to heal. It takes time to rebuild when you break trust and when you break the covenant of your marriage the way that I did. We were encouraged early on to begin to talk about what we wanted our marriage to look like while we unpacked what it had been to shape it into something that was fun and healthy, and there was happiness and there was joy and friendship.
In 2024, on our anniversary in July, we got to renew our vows together and take communion. And it was such a holy day. It was really just you and I. As we sat with our counselor and we sat with each other and we wept together, we prayed together, we took communion together. We have watched God bring healing to our lives. And honestly, I would say we have a completely new marriage. It's not something that we've rebuilt. It's been a transformation.
Hubieron dos cosas, dos armas que Dios usó para sostenerme en este proceso de sanidad. Número 1, la alabanza. La alabanza. Tu sonrisa también es un arma de guerra. Tu alabanza es un arma de guerra. Pero además de eso, la palabra de Dios, puesta en tu mente y en tu corazón. Cada vez que el miedo llega a mi vida, cada vez que la tormenta quiere tocar mis pensamientos, la palabra de Dios viene hacia mi vida.
God is writing a new story, a fresh story, and I believe a redemption story. And I am so grateful for our story and what He's done.
I get to worship every day now. I get to love. I'm obedient. I get to live in a posture of worship.